Hey, what's going on? Ryan here with Intersection Records, and we're talking Miles Davis again on a Monday. Monday with Miles Davis. And really, we're talking some upper shelf material. Arguably his greatest album of the 50s. This is just fantastic. You know, Kinda Blue is so overground and popular that, you know, when you listen to something like this, it's refreshing because you haven't heard it probably as many times as Kinda Blue. And it's just nearly a perfect album. We're going to talk about if there's anything that keeps it from being a perfect album. I think it's certainly one of my favorite Davis albums. And here's the back. This came out in 1958. Okay, so this record was recorded over 2 days, February 4 and March 4 of 58, released on Columbia in September of 58. George Avakin is the producer. And you know, it's just a fantastic lineup. We're talking Miles Davis, of course, on trumpet and flugelhorn, alto sax, great, Julian Cannonball Adderley, tenor saxophone, John Coltrane, Red Garland on piano, and Philly Joe Jones. This would be the last of Philly Joe and Red Garland. Miles would replace them with Bill Evans and Jimmy Cobb later in the spring. Jones and Garland were having some heroin issues. Let's go through this bad boy track by track. And, you know, again, just upper shelf stuff. This is a must, in my opinion. Milestones from 1958. It opens up with Dr. Jekyll. And Dr. Jekyll is about as good. It's a Jackie McLean composition. And it's interesting that it's called Dr. Jekyll, because if you think of the old Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, you know, some of my notes are just the schizophrenic sax playing between Cannonball Adderley and John Coltrane. They are on full duel here. Miles Davis's trumpet playing is so furious and fast. Miles Davis is not a fast trumpet player. Guys like Dizzy Gillespie, guys like Clifford Brown are known for their fast runs and lines. You know, this is full bebop flight here in a hard bop era. Miles is playing as fast and as articulately as you find him on record here. After he comes through on Dr. Jekyll with the main phrasings, you're going to get that first solo from Cannonball, which is just incredible. And then Coltrane's coming in. And it's, you know, if you don't know any better, you think it's one saxophone player playing in different minds, you know, as a Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, but it's really the two of them just going at each other. And it's absolutely fantastic. One of my favorite tracks of the period, if only it was longer. It's 5 minutes and 55 seconds. Do you hear a little when the Saints go marching in the opening when Miles is playing some trumpet? I think I do. And, you know, again, Coltrane's proving here that he's ready to take over this industry. And he will shortly hereafter and put out albums like Blue Train, Giant Steps in the coming year. The next song is Sid's Ahead. This is a Miles Davis composition. It's 13 minutes and 13 seconds. It's a much slower blues. You know, I wrote down, let's not forget Paul Chambers. Paul Chambers is 22 years old here. He's already been with Miles for 3 years. And he would stay with Miles from 55 to 63. Really one of his longest tenured bass players. I'd say every bit as long as Ron Carter, right? Marcus Miller had a long run in the 80s. He really shines on this whole album, Paul Chambers does. Plenty of space for great soloing by everyone here. And, you know, it's after the furious nature of the opening track, Dr. Jekyll, it's nice to have a little space and calm down. And Pittsburgh's own Paul Chambers really shines. And the next song ramps that bebop craziness back up to 11 with the John Lewis, famously founding member of Modern Jazz Quartet, co-written with Dizzy Gillespie, the great song Two Bass Hit. Again, Lewis and Gillespie song. This song tracks in at 5 minutes and 10 seconds. You know, Salt Peanuts, you kind of hear a little Salt Peanuts type phrasing early. Just so happens to be one of my least favorite songs in the sense that I don't like singing in my jazz. But there's no singing in this fantastic version of Two Bass Hit. Philly Joe is just incredible. Absolutely incredible. And he is on this whole album. The album is so well recorded. And I think I've said that about all these records. And maybe when you think about acoustic instruments just mic'd, you know, you got a good room, it's going to sound great. And this album does sound great. There's just phenomenal energy. You know, again, Coltrane, as good as Cannonball Adderley is, and the soloing by Cannonball is phenomenal on Two Bass Hit, Coltrane's going to swoop in and steal the day. He's going to swoop in and steal the day. Just to think that you'd have a band with those guys all together is pretty unbelievable. And, you know, that's the last song on a fantastic side of jazz. When you're talking Dr. Jekyll, Sid's Ahead, and Two Bass Hit. But then you flip over the album and you get the title track, Milestones. You know, again, this is almost more of a bebop record, certainly on two of the three opening tracks. Maybe Sid's Ahead's more blues-oriented or hard bop-oriented. Milestones, really Miles' first delve into the what's called modal jazz. And that really makes this as a landmark record. This is another composition along with Sid's Ahead from Miles Davis. And it's one of his signature songs, isn't it? You know, again, Miles is coming in with the main themes, with his mute. He's playing a flugelhorn here, which is a little bit shorter, I think, than a trumpet. And then Cannonball Adderley comes in and blows the house down with an alto saxophone solo. You know, again, Milestones at 5 minutes and 49 seconds is just a unbelievably fantastic and innovative track. And it would really be, again, a signature for the remainder of his run of doing this type of jazz. The next song is an interesting track. It's called Billy Boy. It's an arrangement. It's a traditional arrangement arranged in this version by Ahmad Jamal, who was a huge influence on Miles' modal playing, coincidentally. But the interesting thing about this track, and maybe a reason, like we said earlier, why this isn't a perfect record, you got John Coltrane, Cannonball Adderley, and Miles Davis in your band, but this is just, from what I can hear, just a piano trio. Just Chambers, Philly Joe Jones, and Red Garland. That being said, it's a fantastic song. You know, it's 7 minutes of just some of the best Red Garland playing and a signature piece. Would I like it more yes, if Coltrane and Miles Davis and Cannonball were to play on it. But standing alone and realizing, you know, maybe those guys weren't there. Maybe the guys had to go do something or hadn't shown up and they just pushed play and bounced out a fantastic track. I can only imagine that's what's going on. Incidentally, I want to go back to Sid's Ahead, the second song, the 13-minute song. Red Garland does not play on that song. And Miles takes opening solos, and when he gets done with his solos, he plays some chords on the piano while Coltrane and Cannonball solo. Miles played a lot of piano. Miles wrote on piano. As we get into the 80s and certainly in the 70s as well, Miles sometimes ducks behind an electric piano and plays quite a bit. And it's interesting to hear him play and reminiscent a little bit of like a Thelonious Monk in his kind of chords that are a little abstract and interesting. Anyway, Billy Boy is a great little piano trio piece. The album finishes up with the Thelonious Monk standard straight no chaser. Now, Coltrane had just come off of a long period of 1957 playing with Monk. In fact, I think from July to December of 57, they play together. And they're on record together. And this is certainly a song that Coltrane has down pat. And it's probably why they chose to record it for this date. It's just as good as jazz gets. It's just as good of interplay as you can get between, you know, Coltrane, Cannonball, Miles, Philly Joe, Red Garland, and Paul Chambers. John Coltrane just absolutely slays here. He just absolutely slays. Miles is particularly lyrical and articulate in his phrasing. You know, again, like Dr. Jekyll, Miles is playing so fast, it's almost like a Clifford Brown territory. Miles is in full Miles zone and straight no chaser. Again, Red Garland's on fire too. I mean, Red Garland, you know, again, they would be gone from this band, fired by Miles. And by May of 58, so just 2 months after this, those guys are gone. And Bill Evans and Jimmy Cobb are in. Bill Evans is now joining a band that, you know, you could say what you want about Red Garland, he's incredible, but Bill Evans is a school of jazz in himself. And he's not on this record. And of course, they're going to go on to do Kind of Blue the next, February. This is a fantastic Miles Davis album. I would say it's my favorite album that he has ever done. If it's not, it's certainly up there. We're going to pick next week's record from our bucket here. And we are in for, Dig. Dig. Speaking of Jackie McLean, he plays on Dig alongside some of the earliest recordings of Sonny Rollins. This is 1951. This isn't released on Prestige, I don't think, till 56. Yeah, it says recorded October 5 of 51, released in January of 56 on Prestige. You know, I'm sure it was released earlier on a 10-inch, but we're talking 12-inch albums on this whole program with Miles Davis on Mondays. Dig's going to be a lot of fun. Art Blakey's on drums. And we'll see you next week. Peace out. See ya.